Thank you so much, Helen. And Kelly, it's so lovely to meet you. It really is. You are a wonderful inspiration, and I'm so blessed to have you in my circle and all of you ladies in my circle from now on. So thank you for having me. Well, 2015 for me was a fantastic year. I had basically gotten myself out of the sexually transmitted debt that I had from my ex-husband. I got myself back into shape. I was incredibly motivated. I was a happy little piglet. And 2015, 2 weeks before Christmas, I log into my bank account. I wanted to do some Christmas shopping, and I thought, well, let me check that I had been paid. What do I see? I see minus $100,000. I know, Leslie, my reaction was exactly the same. I was like, what the hell? Well, before I tell you what happened, let me give you a little bit of my backstory. So I have been a single mother for 26 years. I grew up in South Africa to German and Italian parents. And when I was 20 years old, the police knocked on my door to tell me that my partner had died in a car hijacking. I had a 6-month-old baby. I was halfway through my accounting degree, and let me tell you something, that moment was a major defining moment in my life because I literally had to grow up overnight. And I moved heaven and earth. I got myself out of South Africa because I felt at that point that it wasn't safe to raise a child anymore, and I was scared to live there. I moved halfway across the world, and I've raised this child on my own for 26 years. I've gotten him through various hearing issues because we found out he couldn't hear when he was 6 years old. He'd gradually gone deaf. So there was a lot of remedial teaching involved, which is expensive. I then got remarried in 2012, and that didn't work out so well. I got married to an entrepreneur who I supported for nearly 4 years. And at that point, I just said, I've had enough. I've got to now take care of myself. So 2015 for me was a major defining year because I was at the point where, as a single mother, I was completely debt-free and entering my 40s. And my plan was to really start saving and thinking about my future. So there I'm sitting in front of my computer, and I've got this minus 100,000 on my bank account. Well, what had happened when I was married, I had this debt from my husband, and I would take out credit cards that were zero interest transfers. So I just keep transferring the debt, not paying interest and paying them off. And I hadn't actually even thought about closing the accounts. Somebody had gotten into my 5 credit cards and literally maxed every single one out. It was somebody that had hacked into my laptop. And let me tell you something, I don't remember much of the first part of 2016. I had a complete nervous breakdown. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I suddenly owe $100,000 to something I didn't even do anything for. I had nothing to show for it. And I just didn't see a point in going on, to be frank. I was at a point in my life where I literally planned ways to kill myself because I just didn't want to go on. And it got to the point where I was so low that I actually cut my wrists. Not bad enough to be in hospital, but I had the knife out and I cut my wrists. But something in me didn't give up. It didn't give up. And one thing I learned from the experience is that when your boats are burned, when you have nothing to lose, you find the most incredible strength in yourself. And I came out of that corner fighting. Now, all of this happened in December 2015. And in July 2016, I got an anonymous email from somebody who said, I know who this person is. He sent me a photo of the guy's Facebook account. There was this big fat guy. He was sitting on a big pink flamingo in his pool, looking very content. And this anonymous tip said to me, look, here are some details about him. And here's his email. So I wrote to this guy and I said to him, I know exactly who you are. I'm coming to Tel Aviv next week because this was a scam that came out of Tel Aviv. And I'm going to start criminal proceedings against you. I don't even have money to drive to the airport, let alone fly to Tel Aviv. And I said to him, oh, and by the way, if you don't give me all my money back, I will be contacting Interpol as well. And I've got a private detective watching you. I know that you've got this pool in your house, and I know from my anonymous tip-off that you speak Spanish. So within an hour like that, I got a response. And a month later, I got everything back as well as the interest. Now, to put this in perspective, I've got a friend who works in security, and he said to me, "You're insane, because for $20,000, he could have put a contract out on you and he would have saved and kept $80,000. But you know what? I didn't care because I had absolutely nothing to lose." Now, that August proved to me to be one of the best months of my entire life, because the other thing that I was going through that year is I was being severely bullied at work. It got to the point where I would drive into the car park, see this person's car, and burst into tears. And in August of that year, I got all my money back from this scam. Obviously, I couldn't leave work because I needed the income, and I got retrenched. And that for me was a defining moment in my life, because never again. I was never, ever going to depend on someone again. And I was never going to be in a financial position like that again. And I was going to make sure that no other woman, if I could help it, would be in that position. So I knew for me that the way to financial freedom was to set up my own business. And so I did. And today I coach women on how to build a business online, because it's a fantastic time to do that. On the one hand, we women have many gender equality issues, and we really struggle, especially in the corporate workplace, to earn the same amount as men. But we have this beautiful, incredible opportunity to build incomes online, which gives us incredible freedom. Now, I'm not the only one when I think of all the struggles that I've gone through as a single parent and as a woman financially. I'm not the only woman who suffered from this. Statistics show that 1 in 3 women, 1 in 3. So if you're literally sitting in a group of 3 women, one of you is going to end up living in poverty in midlife over the age of 45. And I'm not talking about third world ladies. I'm talking about Australia, New Zealand, the US, the UK. This is serious, serious stuff. And the thing is, the way we're raised as girls, certainly when I was raised, and I'm in my mid-40s, we were led to believe in this dream about Cinderella and our, we were going to have a prince sweep us off our feet, and we were probably going to get a good job, prince sweeping us off our feet. We were going to have 2 little kids, white picket fence, life was going to be perfect. Nobody warned us or educated us that we have to take care of ourselves financially. And what happens with us is that the minute we have children, unless we're very, very careful, we end up in a life of poverty. So what happens essentially is, the reason we end up like this is the gender pay gap and, of course, divorce. Those 2 things together, and raising children, for many women will end us up in the poorhouse. And I'm even talking about women who are professionals. One of my students, she had an incredibly successful corporate business. She used to market technology to women, and she got divorced at 55. Her husband left her. She decided to give him all their personal assets and she would keep the business. But he didn't tell her that he hadn't paid tax in the business for 3 years. So whilst he ended up with a farm, the 3 cars, all the furniture, she ended up sleeping on her father's couch in the retirement home, because at 55, she lost everything and she had to declare bankruptcy. And she met me, we worked together, and I started teaching her how to build a business online. And I'll never forget, she said to me one day, if I hadn't met you, I wouldn't have been able to feed myself. I wouldn't have had the money to buy food. And this is the issue that so many women in their 50s, 60s now face. They don't have enough to retire on. They don't have any superannuation, very little. And it's a question of, well, do I pay for the electricity this month, or do I actually pay for my medicine? And I want to make sure that any woman that I come across that I can help never, ever has to go through that. So the other issue we're facing, of course, is COVID. And COVID has had one of the biggest economic impacts on women since the Great Depression. It's made this whole issue of female poverty so much worse. The other issue that we face is, of course, we're never going to not be mothers. We will always end up being mothers, and that's always going to take an enormous amount of time. And what happens is we end up spending a disproportionate amount of time compared to men looking after children. And some of us also obviously have elderly parents to look after. So the gender equality gap in terms of pay, men earn on average 52% more than women. 52%, that is an enormous figure. And then you couple that with divorce, what happens? Women's salaries, divorced women's salaries go down 10%, and divorced men's salaries go up 26%. So let me tell you the story about Sophie and David. Sophie and David both went to university and graduated at the same time. And they fell hopelessly in love. And at 26, they got married. Now, at that point, each had started a job roughly at the same time. David earned $48,000 a year. Sophie earned $40,000 a year. After they got married, they bought their little house. Life was great. They worked for another 2 years. And at that point, Sophie fell pregnant. And they sat down and had a discussion. It was decided because David earned $20,000 more than Sophie now, of course she would stay home and look after the kids. So that's what she did. Fast forward 10 years, they've now got 3 kids. And Andrew's had various promotions. He's earning $100,000 a year. Sophie decides to go back to work. But she needs a job that's flexible, and she needs a job that's relatively easy to step into because she hasn't been working for 10 years, right? So she's earning $25,000 a year. Remember, Andrew's earning $100,000 a year. 5 years later, they get divorced. They split the assets down the middle. Everything's nice and fair. Andrew goes off and buys himself a house. Sophie, unfortunately, because of her salary, can't afford a mortgage for the 3 kids and herself. A house big enough, couldn't afford it. So what she does is she puts her money in the bank and she rents. Come 55, Andrew's paid off his mortgage. He's got $500,000 in superannuation. Sophie, on the other hand, has used up nearly all of her savings from her divorce, and she's still renting. So she's basically facing a very precarious situation in a life of homelessness. And that could be, thanks, Ellie. You see, that's the thing. It can happen to so many of us. And I have so many women that I start working with who are in a very, very similar position. And I know myself the sacrifices, the financial sacrifices we make as women, because I got to the age of 40 and I had absolutely no savings. And plus I had this $100,000 of debt, which, thank God, what a miracle. I just still am stunned by what happened, that I managed to get out of it. But ladies, we need to educate our girls. And we need also to make sure that this doesn't happen to us, because even if you are married, you are not safe. I've had so many stories I can share with you. Another one of my clients, and I'm not blaming men, I absolutely love men. I think they are the most wonderful creatures. But another one of my clients, her husband had to go off and work somewhere else. And he had an affair and he had a child with this other lady. So, of course, they got divorced. And here she was also mid-50s. Suddenly, whole world's turned upside down. Another client, they had a beauty business. She didn't know her husband had been fiddling the books and they lost the business. So clearly she divorced him. Again, she said to me, well, I'm 55 years old. I'm starting from scratch. Nobody's going to employ me. What am I going to do? Well, here's the thing, girls. You need multiple income streams, and you need to try and set up what they call a passive income for yourself. Multiple income streams will protect you. So if you get retrenched like I was retrenched in 2007, and like Kelly before, who spoke about having lost her job and living in her car, what was she going to do? Having a single income stream is very dangerous. You need to have 1 or 2 income streams. Have a side hustle. Maybe that side hustle will become a main hustle. I don't know. And it very well could become a main hustle, but you must have multiple income streams. The second concept I want to teach you is about passive income. If you work on an hourly basis and you are paid for your time, you will work until the day you die. I'll repeat that. You will work until the day you die. What you need to set up, and we've got this incredible opportunity with online at the moment, is that if you have some sort of a product or a service that can sell literally while you sleep, you will be earning a passive income. So try and get some multiple income streams and try and get some form of passive income. You might get it from an investment. I always grew up thinking I could never afford a house. And of course, I live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. And I was thinking this morning, actually, in the car, that I've literally had this monetary block for many years. I could never afford a house as a single mother. But there are other ways you can buy property. You can actually buy in consortiums now and invest that way. So don't say to yourself, I can never do this. Find out. Go and arm yourself. You have to become smarter. This is not stuff they teach you in schools. I've got an undergraduate degree in accounting. to earn more income, thinking that my son, it would be a way to protect my son. I went off and did a master's degree, an MBA, which was meant to be the be all and end all of degrees. Do that and you can write your own paycheck. And it still took me years to work this out. So I'm on a mission to educate women, because the more we help each other and the more in the first world we can raise our standards, the more we can help our sisters in the third world as well, because that's another one of my passions. And the reason that I had a lady once say to me, look, I feel so bad charging for what I do because it's my passion. I need to help everybody. But you have to look after yourself first. And what happens when you look after yourself first and you have that income, you can help so many more people as well. And that's where I'm thriving, because I also now go out and I help keep girls in school and keep them educated in places like Africa and Asia as well. All right, so before I leave you, I am going to give you 3 little tasks to do, very easy, and you can literally start today if this is something that you're passionate about. If you want to protect your financial future, if you don't want to end up living in a caravan eating cornflakes or sitting there going, well, this month, do I get my medication or do I have electricity and heat? You need to do this. So you have to commit to stepping out of your comfort zone. You will not grow. You will not live a divine, thriving, abundant life if you don't commit to be a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, because in order to grow, you have to go through that process. So welcome that feeling of discomfort and change. You have to make this commitment and say, look, it's going to take me a bit of work. I'm going to have to change. I'm going to have to become more committed, and I have to think about my financial future, but that's okay, because I'm going to get through the end. Find a support system. This is number 2, very important. Find a support system of women like these HerStory girls that will support you and support your dream and your vision. You become the 5 people closest to you. So be very, very careful who you hang out with. I had a friend many years ago who I decided to end that friendship. She was a really, really big girl, much, much bigger than me. And look, I'm not small either. But she always used to talk about fat girls like us. And I decided one day that she was projecting on me, and that was not an energy I wanted, because she was actually dragging me down. I think she was trying to make herself feel better. And for me, that was a relationship I didn't want anymore. So if you hang out with women who pull you down, as much as you love them, you've got to break that bond somehow. Find your tribe and love them hard. And then the final thing I would suggest to you is download my planner. Gertrude's going to make that available. And come and work with me in my workshop that I'm running in a couple of weeks' time. Let's nut out some stuff. At this point, you might be thinking, oh gosh, I have no clue what I'm going to do. I need inspiration. Or just thinking, I just can't do it. You can. If I can track down an international con artist when the Australian police, Interpol, the FBI, UK Scam Watch all told me it was too hard, then you can do this too. I know you can, and I believe in you. Thank you so much for having me today. And I'm just excited because I'm on a mission and I'm going to make this happen for as many women as I can.